Spoilers for the entirety of Secret Invasion. The finale of Secret Invasion is a monument to the idea of squandered potential. It's a show about broken promises that broke its own promise. I was sold on this show on the promise that I'd be getting a sharp, incisive Nick Fury character piece and a grounded, compelling spy show. This finale took whatever sense of that promise was left after the underwhelming episodes 4 and 5 and blew it to absolute smithereens. In case you can't tell, this video is gonna get kinda negative. Maybe if you want something cheerier, you can watch me talk about my favorite series of video games, or that one Superman cartoon that I really like right now. If you're still here though, that means you're down to hear me voice my immense disappointment in what's easily the worst thing the MCU's ever done behind Quantumania. I went to bat for you guys during Phase 4, man. This better not be the start of a trend. Barring maybe Moon Knight, Secret Invasion's finale is easily the weakest one that any of these shows have had. It's to the point that I'd say the only positive to come out of this episode is that there's now a new bottom-tier standard by which to judge the finales of the other Marvel shows and really highlight their strengths. Complain all you want about the iffy, vague politics of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or the distracting, contrived nature of the action in WandaVision, or the questionable choice of Loki to focus its finale on a single monologue, or how What If kinda feels like a kid playing with action figures, or the criminal misuse of Kingpin and Hawkeye, or I can't actually think of anything for the Ms. Marvel finale. That thing was close to perfect. But while all those other things would be valid complaints, each of those final episodes have, in my opinion, more than enough strengths to compensate. WandaVision did manage to recenter on its incredibly impactful emotional core once all of the action was taken care of. Falcon and the Winter Soldier ends Sam Wilson's individual character arc in an incredibly satisfying place. That monologue in Loki was really well delivered. Hawkeye's last episode was a fun, adventurous romp, and even What If managed to end with some thematic pathos that I think really worked. The thing that makes Secret Invasion's final episode not just disappointing but depressing is that it doesn't have that great strength to lift it up in the face of its flaws, and it really just makes the entire preceding show seem pointless. Maria Hill's death? Pointless. Talos' death? Pointless. Nursing Gravik's incredibly personal hatred of Fury in the first place? Pointless. You know, I called the twist of Fury being G'iah basically as soon as the episode started, but I'm not going to dock it points on principle, since getting G'iah in the Super Skrull machine again is actually a pretty clever plan on Fury's part. What I will not get points for is that it leads to this slow, methodical, thriller drama show ending on a dumb, stupid, dumb, super-powered punching contest. I got genuinely tempted to just fast forward through all of the fighting as I was watching the episode because it's all just so out of place, and I'd probably have a more positive estimation of the episode if I did. It's genuinely my least favorite action scene in the entire MCU. It looks unfinished, the editing and choreography's not good, and most importantly, it just feels totally out of place as the climax to this story. Let's not even get into the fact that it makes G'iah into a horribly, despicably overpowered character, and how this dumb, brutish action climax is the final nail in the coffin for how utterly wasted Emilia Clarke has been in this role. I tell you, man, for the past 6 weeks, I was hoping that every episode would be the one where I finally get to make a video about how G'iah is now an interesting character that I care about, and how Emilia Clarke got to show off her stuff the same way that everyone else in the show did. Now, frankly, I don't ever want to see G'iah again. The other, I'd argue bigger problem is that this action also robs us of any genuine dramatic confrontation between Fury and Gravik. Not letting our hero and villain get any real screen time or dialogue together until the final episode is actually a creative choice that I can respect. It means Fury and Gravik's hatred gets to simmer in the background of the show before they finally come face to face. And when we're led to believe that he's talking to Fury, Kingsley Ben-Adir's absolutely freaking killing it. But to have the final episode end and still make it so Fury never actually has to answer to Gravik, that's psychotic, man. He never even has to face Gravik. The crux of the show, the origin of the whole conflict, Fury's abuse of the Skrull's trust and Gravik's righteous indignation at that, it's never directly addressed by the man himself. I feel like a 12-year-old could tell you why this doesn't work. No offense to any 12-year-olds in the audience. The whole show, literally the whole show, has been about how this is Fury's fight. He says it as much enough times. Gravik is Fury's demon, Fury's dragon to face, a man who Fury's negligence turned into a monster. He's the person that Fury needs to answer to, the dark reflection of all of Fury's ambition, and the show utterly chickens out of that confrontation for a boring, shallow, stupid game of CGI face punch, held by a completely different character who's already had her confrontation with Gravik. Why would you actively choose to deny your protagonist catharsis like this? Give the audience the opportunity to see them own up to their failures, own up to their part in all this turmoil, only to flip it and say, psych, that was a totally different character. You might say, how could they realistically have Fury confront Gravik when Gravik's a Super Skrull? To which I'd say, I don't know, that's the kind of thing that a writer should think about before they commit to building this rivalry as the backbone of the series. I wouldn't blame anyone who told me that Secret Invasion has completely ruined the character of Nick Fury for them. Frankly, I'm not sure that hasn't happened with me. I'm certainly feeling a metric ton of cognitive dissonance. Fury led a whole civilization on with false promises for 30 years, and any ounce of remorse that he might have for that is only ever given voice by a proxy as part of a scheme. Then, by the end of the episode, Fury gives a pretty weak reprimanding to the President for calling open season on all Skrulls, but why would Fury not immediately advocate for the Skrulls as being mostly good guys when he was alone with the President? He just couldn't be bothered to fully explain the situation once the threat was neutralized? What, was he just too lazy? Either way, that's now even more Skrull blood on his hands. God, I just can't help but thinking about Talos. The scenes between he and Fury were far and away the best thing about the show. And it was so nice to see Nick Fury have such a genuine friendship. And then this finale comes, basically reveals that in many ways their relationship was built on a lie and has nothing much to say about that fact. Fury may have genuinely cared for Talos, they may have been genuine friends, but in the end, Talos was also just a sucker whose trust Nick abused. In my last video on the show, I called Talos the MVP, basically the show's heart. And when Talos died, I think that heart died with him. And the show continued to shamble on as a hollow shell of a good idea. Nick Fury took an already decimated species and has single-handedly pushed them to the brink of total extinction through inaction and dodging of his responsibilities. And he seems not that bothered about it. At the start, it felt like this show was about confronting Fury's trust issues, confronting his habit of using other people to his own ends, and either having him grow out of it or at least having him acknowledge it as a character flaw. But for some reason, the show can't commit to either one. Secret Invasion has made Nick Fury into a monster and is too cowardly to have him own it. There's so many ways to take the bones of this show and fashion them into something truly great. Into the hard-hitting espionage drama/character study that Nick Fury deserved, that this cast deserved, that we deserved. But with this finale, it all just amounts to something perfunctory and limp. What did Fury learn from any of this? What were we supposed to have learned from any of this? Gravik could have been such a good villain. G'iah could have been such an interesting new addition to the MCU roster. This show could have been something special, and it didn't have to emulate the comic storyline to get there, but it blew it. And now I'm just eager to move on and forget that this ever happened. What a waste of 6 weeks. What a waste of $200 million. Feels bad, man. I know there are people who disagree with me on this episode and this show as a whole, so let me know what you think in the comments. I'm gonna go.